Hello, welcome to another episode of Varsity360. I am Columbian sports editor Micah Rice, joined once again by Meg Wochnick. And boy, Meg, we have a fun episode for you all today, a theme that we're going to go into in a little bit. But before we go any further, thank you very much to First Pacific Financial. We are coming to you once again for a second straight year from the First Pacific Financial Studio in downtown Vancouver. Thank you to them for supporting the show, for supporting high school sports, and by extension, supporting the community at large. But today we are going to come to you with a theme of big deal, little deal, or no deal when we look at what some of the developments in the first 2 weeks of the high school football season have been. And boy, Meg, we're going to start with a game that everybody's talking about, Friday night, Kiggins Bowl, Graham-Kapowsin versus Skyview. You were there. Tell me about it.
Yeah, first off, this is my 17th year of covering high school football in Washington, and this by far is in my top 5 of just most dramatic, epic comeback finishes that I've witnessed in person. So Skyview comes back to win 21-17, gets a touchdown with 4.4 seconds to go in this one. They were trailing 17-0 entering the fourth quarter in a game that was pretty unrealistic of Skyview. They committed 5 turnovers in this game for a program with such players of such high Q year after year and quality coaches. This was by far not Skyview's best output by any means, but it was really just the final 9:37 of this game, scoring the 21 unanswered points. But before that last second touchdown, it's actually the play about 55 seconds before that sets it up, and we've got a clip to show it. So getting you perspective, it's 4th and 11 from the 35. Skyview's down 3. Basically, this is the play of the game for them. They need to convert, or essentially GK gets the ball turned over on downs, takes a couple of knee downs, ball game's over. So Doogie Poindexter, Skyview's quarterback, rolls out to his right, looks across the middle, throws to Gavin Packer, who's in double coverage. It's tipped, it's intercepted. Now the safety, instead of going down to the ground, which you probably should in that situation, returns the ball about 7 yards. That's where Rex Allinger just has a tremendous hit, gets the ball loose for the forced fumble. The ball rolls back towards Skyview's end zone. It's recovered by Gavin Packer. All of a sudden, the emotions are like, Skyview has new life, a new fresh set of downs, and it's inside a minute to go in this game. So you fast forward to the game-winning touchdown. It was 3rd and goal from the 2-yard line after a timeout. Poindexter looks to his left, finds Matt Glaus in the end zone, a little bit high on the catch, but he corrals it just across the goal line for the game-winning score. I mean, that final 114 was something that I've really never seen, and especially in a moment like that where you needed Skyview to essentially convert that to keep the momentum and the drive alive. They get the turnover, and then forced fumble and recovery happens. It was just a wild scene happening on Friday night. Which brings us to the theme of the episode, big deal, little deal, or no deal. How big of a deal is it that Skyview, in a clash between 2 perennial top 10 statewide teams, not only wins, but wins in the way they did? Exactly, right? And this was a showdown that was kind of, for me, going into this game is how does Skyview stack up against a GK team that you said played for the state championship last year, returned a lot of dudes on both sides of the ball. But I'm going to go a step further and say, yeah, this was a humongous deal. You look at Skyview's schedule, right? And 5 of their non-league opponents all made the postseason a year ago, whether it was the WI postseason or in the Oregon 6A classification postseason, with a 35-13 win-loss record from a year ago. So this is a stacked Skyview schedule, and this is just the first of many big wins I think they're going to get in their non-league slate. So not only winning, but winning in the dramatic fashion against a GK team that 2 weeks ago in their week 1 opener lost to O'Day, actually lost on a last-second fumble return for a touchdown in that one as well. So this is a team that, hey, this could be a playoff preview as well. GK, no question about it, is a playoff team for 2024. I firmly believe that. And Skyview is as well. And, this is just the first of many big things I think Skyview hopes to achieve this year. Well, go back about 2 weeks ago in this show, and when I was kind of playing the contrarian
contrarian and saying why I think Skyview is actually a legitimate pick to possibly be a league champion. No disrespect to Camus, but I was playing the contrarian. One of the main things I was saying is that Skyview would be battle tested by this tough non-league slate that they have. Well, not only have they gone up against two back-to-back good opponents, but they've come up with two last-second or last-minute wins, basically. And so you talk about, you can't always recreate those clutch scenarios, but here Skyview has had back-to-back weeks where they've absolutely had to come up clutch, and they've done it.
They have, and something from Friday's win that, I really kind of took away, the biggest takeaway for me was something that Caden Hamlin actually said post-game when I asked him, what did you guys kind of learn about yourselves as you kind of move forward for the rest of the season? And he said just defensively, the last quarter and a half, is Caden Hamlin really is kind of the cog in that front seven middle linebacker spot for a couple of years now, but what surrounds him in that linebacking core are a bunch of sophomores. And he said the play of those sophomores really earned his respect. He really figured out, hey, when it comes down to business, when it's clutch time, go time, he really can rely on those young pups. And I thought it was something that was a really mature thing to say. And again, props to that defense. That final quarter and a half really holding GK to whether it was a number of punts or just stops on third and fourth down was really impressive for me.
Well, and this is the second straight week that Skyview's defense has been the tougher, more stingy defense as the game has gone into the final quarter when, a lot of teams kind of wilt. Skyview has proven itself back-to-back weeks to be the tougher, more, composed unit between the two teams out on the field.
Now, going forward, I think for me is how do they keep going on this, right? They play a Saturday noon kickoff against Puyallup, a team that's 1-1, is coming off a big win at home over Evergreen last week. And then you look ahead to next week's showdown with Westland, a 6A powerhouse in Oregon. That will be a homecoming game for this area for John Eagle, now the head coach at Westland, formerly at Camus. But where do they go from here after a big win like this will be key for me.
Yeah, because you can be riding high, and always the worry after a emotional empty the tank kind of win is, do you have anything left for the next week?
I think they'll have plenty left, yes.
Yeah, so big deal Skyview with a early game of the year candidate and a dramatic win there. Let's move on to our second topic, big deal, little deal, no deal. Meg, when we were talking in the offseason, a lot of the conversation was about some of the new coaching hires that have happened, and two of the biggest splash hires were Steve Pine taking over at Union and Sean McDonald taking over at Mountain View. These are state championship caliber coaches, obviously taking over programs that have gone through a bit of adversity lately, but we're all eager to see how those programs would fare right away. And unfortunately for both programs, both Mountain View and Union have started 0-2. So I pose to you, big deal, little deal, or no deal that two of the programs that made splashy coaching hires over the offseason have kind of stumbled a bit out of the belt.
No, I'm going to go with not a big deal on this one. Look, I get it. They're both 0-2. Both Sean McDonald and Steve Pine have a combined 8 state championship rings, a combined 11 state championship game appearances, and they're a combined 0-4. But they do face off this week at McKenzie Stadium, which should be, I think, a very good game to see. The good thing is one of those coaches will get their first win at their new school, but unfortunately, the loser of that game will drop to 0-3, and both of their Week 4 opponents are pretty tough ones out of the Three Rivers League and the Metro League out of the Portland area. So, but not a big deal in a sense of, look, every time you get a new coaching regime coming in, you talk about culture and kind of establishing kind of new way to do things. And it's not going to happen overnight. No one's coming in thinking it's automatically ring season just because you got all of these rings coming in with the two coaches. So I'm going to go with not a big deal on this, but yeah, it's going to take a little bit of time and a little bit of adjustment to kind of get both of these programs going.
Yeah, because in a lot of cases you have new schemes being implemented. You don't just, like you said, show up and immediately have a championship culture. That's built week after week from kids showing up in the weight room over and over, and then actually taking those film session lessons and executing them on the field. And frankly, that just takes time. You got to do it.
It does, right?
Yeah.
And we're looking into week 3, and so I think it'll eventually come. But I still think we're a little bit early in the game to completely just throw on the whole panic mode by any means.
Oh, no panic at all. It's just everything is a work in progress, from the first place teams down to teams that are building something. So we're looking forward to seeing how that progression continues to happen at those very proud programs. Speaking of progression, our number 3 topic for big deal, little deal, no deal. How about those Heritage Timberwolves?
How about those Timberwolves, huh?
Yeah, they come in, they start the season on a 22-game losing streak. Their whole thing was like, we're going to snap the streak. That's their team motto, snap the streak. Well, they do that week 1 against Fort Vancouver. And is there any letdown afterwards? No. They, in fact, after falling behind 10-0 to Hudson's Bay, the Timberwolves score 31 unanswered points to beat Hudson's Bay 31-10 and get their second win in a row. Hey, the Timberwolves have a different kind of streak going. They are on a winning streak.
That's right. One of 7 teams in our coverage area, actually 2-0. Look, I know 2 weeks ago when I was on last, I talked about extra bold predictions. Had we done a 6th one, Heritage would have been it. Coming into the season, this program was my sleeper team. Not only did I think the streak would end, but they would win 3, possibly 4 games. And right now, at least they're 2/3 of the way there, getting to that 3-win mark. If you're unfamiliar with Kevin Peterson, their head coach now in his 2nd season, familiarize yourself with Kevin Peterson. So he's been at Heritage now for 20 years, teaching weights and PE, and he's been on previous coaching administrations at the school as an assistant coach. Took a number of years off when both of his daughters went through middle school and eventually high school at Mountain View. So they've graduated, and here comes Kevin Peterson instilling a tremendous culture. And I know with coaches, especially football coaches, coming in and really establishing that identity, that culture is huge. And I've talked with him a couple of times this offseason. And back in August when we chatted, I asked him if things program-wise where are they? Where do they stack up to where maybe you thought they would be? And he says they're ahead of schedule as far as kind of those number of check marks. So you look at just 100+ guys coming out at Heritage. That's a number that I'm not sure that maybe that's ever happened at that school. And they're finally fielding 3 full football teams again. It's not like you're trying to take 25 guys from the JV team to make a C team game. So you're talking about a program that really had to make some last minute orders on helmets, on equipment, because so many players that weren't anticipated to come out turned out. Now, that's a great problem to have, but also if you're Kevin Peterson, that's a very stressful thing to go through so close to the season, trying to still find helmets and gear for everybody. So they are very much on the right track. KJ Clark, the first 2 games, has been an absolute dominating force running the ball. Owen Daly is the 2nd most experienced quarterback coming back in the league behind Tucker Amrine at Kelso. So I expect some bigger things for Heritage as the season goes along, for things to happen for them. So
just to put a bow on that point, big deal, little deal, or no deal, being that we've just talked about how it's the first 2 weeks of the season, let's not overreact, but I sense this is kind of a big deal for Heritage.
No, yeah, absolutely. This is a big deal. Look, you go in with a 22 game losing streak, right? And yes, you said it. ETS acronym was their motto this year, is end the streak. And so it goes even beyond that to what Kevin was telling me back in the summer, is not only is the belief in the coaching staff and what they're doing there from the players, but the players themselves are believing in each other. And that's huge when you're trying to turn around a program that has had more losses than wins over the years. You go back 11 seasons, Heritage has only won 2 league games since 2013. They won one league game in 2017, and then they beat Evergreen for their only league win back in the fall of 2021. So it's been a long time coming for Heritage to kind of get on a roll in just either the 3A or the 4A Greater St. Helens League, depending on what classification they were in that season. But again, there is a very good chance that Heritage gets more wins and even goes a step further and starts to get some wins in league play.
We love to see it. All right, the next point we're going to address here is the 2A Greater St. Helens League, the always unpredictable, wild, and crazy 2A Greater St. Helens League. Well, only Ridgefield in the 2A GSHL has started 2-0. In fact, you can look at the league as a whole and say, well, maybe the 2A GSHL off right out of the gate has been a little underwhelming. In fact, they're 5-11 through 2 weeks, and 4 of those teams are 0-2. Big deal, little deal, or no deal that the 2A Greater St. Helens League has had kind of a slow start.
Yeah, I'm going to go with a little deal on this, and the reason why is because in an 8-team league, it kind of depends on each of the teams when you're talking about big deal, little deal, no deal. And so I'm coming in the middle on this one and going with a little deal. Look, you mentioned it, 5-11 for the teams. The Lone Ranger at the top at 2-0 is Ridgefield. We've got 3 teams at 1-1, and the remaining 4 are 0-2. And of those teams that are 0-2, 2 of them, Woodland, the defending league champion, and Hudson's Bay, which finished in a 3-way tie for second place last year, are among those in the winless camp. And of those 4 teams, they've combined to score 9 touchdowns, and defensively they've combined to allow 38.6 points per game. One of the things I'm looking forward to, well, there's 2 things I'm looking forward to. Number one is league play starts this week, and so we're going to kind of start to see how these teams stack up finally against each other. So 2 of the games I'm looking forward to were games that one of them was pretty pivotal last year in terms of the league title race, and that is Washougal at Woodland. If you remember a year ago, when we picked Washougal to win the league title, it was actually the upstart Woodland Beavers who went on the road and upset Woodland or upset Washougal, and that was really the first game that we thought, all right, this is not only a big deal for Woodland, but this is kind of the start of what could be a crazy GSHL season, and ultimately it was. But the next game that I'm looking forward to most is when Mark Morris hosts Columbia River up at Longview Memorial Stadium, and the reason why is I look at Mark Morris's 0-2 record, and it's like, you know what, yeah, they probably on paper should be 0-2, right? You're facing a quality Kelso program that has made the postseason every single year in Steve Amrine's tenure, and then you're looking at a Seton Catholic program that's coming off that historic semifinal run and ultimately should make another deep postseason run. So is it a surprise to see Mark Morris 0-2? Absolutely not. But these 2 games that I mentioned, I think are going to kind of set the tone as far as what we're going to see starting in league play. Well,
and you look at those teams, talk about taking on or kind of going up a weight class for these first 2 weeks. You look at Washougal, they've taken on 2 3A opponents, beating Mountain View in week 1 and then losing a close game to Prairie in week 2. But, it's always tough. It doesn't matter. If you're a 2A team facing a 3A team, that's always kind of punching up a weight class. And so I'm eager to see kind of how Washougal, with they're getting more, they're developing their offense, working in a new starting quarterback. I think the ceiling is pretty high for a team like that, regardless of coming up on the short end last week.
No question. And a quick little nugget about the Panthers. So their first 4 opponents this season, all new head coaches. So yes, you go into the first week or 2 and you don't have much film on who you're going to prepare for. And so the Panthers open up league play with Woodland, then they host Mark Morris. And so by that time, obviously, you're going to have plenty of film. But it's just really kind of interesting. All of their games in September are facing new head coaches at the program. So it's a little bit difficult to maybe game plan, although with Mike Peck's tenure at Prairie, you kind of know what you're going to get facing the Monarchs in week 4.
All right. We love it that league play is starting. Yes. It always comes early for the 2A Greater St. Helens League, but we like that. that, get those games that really count. And our final topic that we're going to look at, big deal, little deal, or no deal, is with a smaller school, but that's come up with two big wins to start off, and that is the Kingsway Christian Knights. Kingsway is coming off a dominating 49-13 win over Hoquiam. The Knights are 2-0. We've obviously talked ad nauseum about the La Centers, the Seton Catholics, the Kalamas of the Trico League, and how good that league can be. But here come the Kingsway Knights, surprising a few people with their hot start to the season. Meg, big deal, little deal, or no deal that the Knights are 2-0?
Well, it's a big deal, and is it a big deal to everyone in the Christian or the Kingsway Christian community? Absolutely not. I did a story a couple weeks ago on Ryan Charlton. Their stud linebacker, running back, two-time all-league player. He said this is going to be a different Kingsway team, even from a year ago when Dale Rule, their head coach, took over a struggling Knights program. So is it surprising to see them 2-0? No. I think for me what is surprising is to see the way that they've done it. So they went up to Rochester, up in unincorporated Thurston County, and grass that was probably, no surprise, probably a good 8 to 10 inches long at that point. That was a 14-6 win, really relying on that defense. But then you saw the offense kind of come into its own. It was a fantastic atmosphere out at Kingsway Christian for their home opener last week. So again, we've talked about how difficult the Trico League is this year. Already 5 teams are off to a 2-0 start. There's only 4 playoff berths out of the District 4 for 1A this year. And we got teams like La Center, Kingsway, Kalama coming up from Class 2B the last 8 years. But I expect Kingsway to be really right in the mix. And they start off league play this Friday, starting with Kalama. Then they host La Center. So they're going to get 2 of the more tougher teams in the Trico to start out, but really we're going to find out kind of where the Knights are after these next 2 weeks.
Well, that's what makes the Trico League so entertaining. It's not only do you have kind of the 2 teams up at the top that everyone is talking about, La Center and Seton, but then you have a state championship caliber program and Kalama joining the mix, but then that dogfight for that 4th spot, the 3rd spot, anywhere, trying to get to week 10 in the district playoffs. Good luck trying to figure that out with some of the teams that are so evenly matched in the middle of that league.
And that's what makes it exciting. I mentioned a few weeks ago on this show about over the years how the Trico football doesn't really get a whole lot of love, a whole lot of respect on a statewide level. And this season, I think, is really going to change people's opinions, right? There are coaches in the Trico who are part of the 1A seeding committee when it comes to seeding the teams in the final round of 16 for the state playoffs. So we're going to start to see a lot more respect for the Trico, and deservingly so. And this is just the first of what should be many examples of that this year.
Well, and that just supports why it's a big deal that Kingsway is off to 2-0. The more of those teams kind of that are projected to be in the middle of the league standings that start off strong, that start to bolster the argument that the league top to bottom is tougher than it's been in the past, that makes a difference when it comes to seeding.
Yeah, and going back to Kingsway, I think one of the difference makers for them kind of moving forward is a strength that Coach Dale Rule talked about is just how much team speed that they have. And when I think of team speed, I think of teams like Seton Catholic, which all over the field, they've got athletes. And so watching some of the highlight in film of Kingsway's win last Friday is thinking, yeah, he's absolutely right. So Kingsway's got athletes all over the place. So many of these football players are multi-sport standouts at the school. So it's going to be a fun Trico showdown. Again, just like the 2As, they start league play this week. I can't wait. Should be fun.
You can't coach speed and you can't manufacture drama. The drama comes naturally in those leagues that are so competitive top to bottom. And we love it that league play is getting going this Friday. We can't wait to get out and see some of those league games and league schedules kick off. Be sure to check out 360preps.com for all of the Southwest Washington high school happenings. We will see you next week, and we will see you out at the field.